I was standing on my back porch this morning watching the sun peek over the horizon, just this incredible wash of orange and pink across the sky. And I couldn't help but think how fitting it is to start Martin Luther King Jr. Day with such a peaceful moment.
There's something really special about those quiet morning moments, isn't there? And you're right, Alex, especially today. Welcome, everyone, to Blue Mountain Morning. The city's still waking up, but there's already this sense of significance in the air.
Absolutely. And we're here, as always, to help you find those moments of clarity and connection as your day begins. We've got some important things to talk about, but we'll do it in that calm, grounded way that hopefully helps you start your morning right.
As we move into our first segment today, we're looking at what's probably on everyone's mind, the presidential inauguration happening today. Donald Trump is set to become our 47th president, and there's quite a bit happening behind the scenes.
I've been following the transition updates, and it's fascinating how much preparation goes into this historic moment. What are some of the key things we're expecting in these first few days?
Well, Trump's team has already outlined some pretty significant day one priorities. They're talking about immediate executive actions on several fronts. Immigration, healthcare, and environmental regulations are at the top of that list.
I've noticed there's been a lot of discussion about the Affordable Care Act specifically.
Yeah, that's actually one of the biggest immediate focuses. Trump's indicated he wants to sign executive orders right away to begin dismantling parts of the ACA. But, it's important to note that any major changes would still need congressional action.
And what about the cabinet? I know there are still some confirmation hearings ongoing.
Right? Several key positions are still in the confirmation process. The Senate's been conducting these hearings pretty much back-to-back, and we're expecting more this week. It's actually pretty unusual to have this many cabinet positions still unconfirmed at this point in the transition.
And for folks wondering about the ceremony itself,
the inauguration is set for noon today and will take place in the Capitol Rotunda due to the severe cold. While the setting is more intimate than the traditional west front of the Capitol, the event is still expected to draw significant attendance. Security measures have been heightened across D.C., making this one of the most extensive security operations for an inauguration in U.S. history.
Marc, when we look at the bigger picture here, these changes are going to ripple through so many aspects of American life. What's really striking me is how this might affect everyday folks across the country.
Absolutely. I think one of the most immediate impacts people might notice is in their healthcare situation. With the proposed changes to the ACA we mentioned earlier, millions of Americans could see shifts in their coverage options and costs.
Yeah, and there's the economic side too. I've noticed the markets have been interesting lately.
That's putting it mildly. The financial sector's been responding to every announcement and tweet. We're seeing particular movement in industries like manufacturing and energy, where Trump's promised major policy shifts, not to mention the official Trump meme coin, a sort of cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, that was launched on Friday and is already valued a few $1 billion.
Oh yeah, that's a first for a president. Well, I'm hearing a lot of questions from people about their jobs and retirement accounts.
Well, that uncertainty is pretty natural during any transition, but especially this one. The proposed changes to trade policies and regulations could really reshape certain industries. Some economists are predicting job growth in manufacturing and construction, while other sectors might face new challenges.
And what about at the community level? I mean, we're already seeing changes in how people interact with their local government.
That's actually a really important point. There's been this sort of, trickle-down effect to state and local politics. Cities and states are already positioning themselves differently, either aligning with or pushing back against expected federal policies.
You know what really stands out to me? The way this is affecting everyday conversations at, dinner tables across America.
Yeah, we're seeing this fascinating shift in how people engage with politics and civic life. Some communities are coming together more than ever, while others are experiencing these new kinds of tensions. It's really reshaping how Americans relate to each other and their government.
And I guess that's what makes this transition so unique. It's not just about policy changes, it's about fundamental shifts in how we operate as a society. Marc, on this Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I can't help but think about how his message of peaceful change feels so relevant to our current moment.
It really does. I was just reading one of his letters earlier, and there's this quote that really struck me. He said, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny."
Oh, wow, that's incredibly powerful, especially today.
It is. And what's amazing is how his approach to creating change, this idea of peaceful resistance combined with community building, it still offers us such a practical blueprint for moving forward.
I'm seeing that happening in some really inspiring ways across the country. Like, just last week, I heard about this community in Michigan that started these monthly dinner conversations.
Oh yeah? Tell me more about that.
So they're bringing together people from all different backgrounds, viewpoints, they share a meal and just talk, really talk about their hopes, their fears, their vision for their neighborhood.
That's exactly the kind of grassroots engagement Dr. King was talking about. It's not always about the big demonstrations. Sometimes it's just about creating these spaces where real connection can happen.
And you know what's really beautiful? These small acts of community building, they're happening everywhere. People are starting to realize that change doesn't always have to come from the top down.
Right. Whether it's neighborhood cleanup projects, local education initiatives, or just being more intentional about supporting each other. These small actions, they add up to something bigger.
It's like Dr. King said about the arc of the moral universe being long, but bending toward justice. Sometimes we just need to be patient and keep doing the work, one day at a time.
And remember that we're all part of this continuing story of American progress. Every small step toward understanding, every conversation that bridges a divide, it all matters. As we look out across our beautiful country today, from the misty Appalachian peaks to the rolling plains of the Midwest, I'm reminded of how the landscape itself can teach us about finding peace during times of change.
I love that perspective. There's something so grounding about it.
Like how the mighty Colorado River didn't carve the Grand Canyon in a day. It's been slowly, patiently working its magic for millions of years.
And yet, look at what it created. One of the most breathtaking sights in our nation.
Exactly. Change is like that river. Sometimes it moves quickly, sometimes slowly, but it's always flowing. The key is to find our own rhythm within it, just like those ancient sequoias in California that have witnessed centuries of change but remain standing strong.
That reminds me of something my grandmother used to say. She'd tell me that when things feel overwhelming, just look up at the stars that have guided travelers across this continent for generations.
There's such wisdom in that. These landscapes that we share, they're more than just pretty views. They're reminders of our resilience, our shared heritage, and the steady presence that remains even as the world around us transforms.
As we wrap up today's Blue Mountain Morning, I just want to say how grateful we are to share these moments of reflection with all of you across America.
Absolutely. On this historic day, as we honor Dr. King's legacy and prepare for a presidential transition, remember that you're part of something bigger, this ongoing American story that we're all writing together.
And if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by all the changes, just take a deep breath and remember what we talked about today.
Yeah, we'll be right back here tomorrow morning, same time, ready to help you find those moments of clarity and connection in whatever the day brings.
Until then, stay grounded, stay hopeful, and remember, every sunrise brings new possibilities. See you tomorrow, everyone.
Take care, friends.